I feel like it's very much said around college football right now that this is a different Clemson team than we've seen in the past. Do you agree with that, or do you say this is kind of the typical Clemson, but just out to a little bit of a slow start?
It's probably a little bit of both. This is a Clemson team that it is lacking the explosive playmakers that they've had in the past on offense. In other words, they've got two really good running backs and Will Shipley and Phil Maffa, but neither one of those are. Remember Travis Etienne kind of had a little, kind of a running joke in the press box. We see one of those guys get tripped up or caught from behind. We turn, we look at each other, and we go, Travis would have scored right there. So they don't have top end speed. So you're not getting the game breaking plays that they used to. They don't have that really with wide receivers anymore. Still a lot of really good athletes out on the field. The offensive line starting to come into its own. Cade Klubnik, the quarterback, is. The defense still really, really good. I think that they played probably as well as they could play against Florida State last week. So still prime athletes everywhere. The one big difference is they're just kind of having to grind out drives a little bit more because they just don't have the capability to really put together, an 80-yard play.
Yeah. And what stood out to you from that game against Florida State for the Tigers?
Couple of things. Number one, the quarterback, Cade Klubnik, he just still in his sixth start or whatever now as a quarterback, starting to come into his own a little bit. Saw him hang in the pocket. He really avoided the big, as we call it, the catastrophic mistake that he's made so far. He made a couple against Duke. He made one against Charleston Southern, where who knows? He even told us afterwards. He was like, "I have no idea what I was doing right there." But he avoided that, and then the offense opened up for the first time. It's the first time that we've really seen this offense in a couple of years. We saw wheel routes for the tight end. We saw drag routes for the running backs really start to come into its own. And then that defense, 22 rushing yards for Florida State. That's all they had. -4, I think, in the second half. Clemson just absolutely shut them down, made them one-dimensional. And people around here will gripe a lot about the defense, but I think the defense is actually the best part of this team right now.
Yeah. And when you just look at their record, 2-2 doesn't live up to the standards that most people expect as of late with Clemson football. I watched Cade Klubnik's interview and he seemed, positive about everything that's going on. Do you feel like the other players feel that feel that same way as far as it's positive about the outlook of the season, or do you think they're down a little bit right now?
No, I do. We interviewed a lot of the players this week, and I think that that's a message that head coach Dabo Sweeney is hitting home, that you're not out of this yet. Crazy things can happen. It's the ACC. You're not even out of the ACC talk yet. National championship, yeah, that's by the wayside, unless something miraculous happens. That's gone. But they understand that they still have some special things that they can accomplish, and then this is a team that, because of the youth, especially on offense, this is a guy that you're going to have your quarterback, both running backs, all the wide receivers, and most of the offensive line back next year. So
Yeah.
they're building for next year too, and they understand that there's still a lot to play for. And yeah, I get the feeling that we might see their best game Saturday.
Yeah. And I think Syracuse fans are worried about that because they saw what happened last year between Syracuse and Clemson. And I think that's where Cade Klubnik got his when he took over the starting role. What makes the duo with Cade Klubnik and Will Shipley so elite?
Cade is one of those guys that everybody is drawn to. He's a natural leader. We compare him to a golden retriever puppy around here because he's always bouncing around and he's just always happy, and he is. He's like a puppy, but he loves football. Dabo Sweeney has his high school camps in June. Cade's always out there. If he's not running routes, he's throwing routes to somebody. He's trying to punt the football. He's spinning it. They're telling him, go away, leave the facility, go do something else. And he's always around. And he's just a kid that loves the game. And he's always been a winner. In fact, these two losses are two more losses than he had in all of his high school career, when he was a part of three state championship teams in the highest classification in Texas. So he's used to winning. He understands how to be a winner and how to be a leader. And then, Shipley's just insane. He's crazy. They have what they call the crazy eyes Shipley, and he kind of goes wild out there. He had a much publicized argument with his running backs coach 2 games ago when he I think he maybe took a wrong line, and the coach fussed at him, and he's like, "Why are you fussing at me?" And then he comes over there and argues with him, and I think there was some internal discipline. So you've got 2 kids that really care and who really love the game, and they're both leaders out there. So that's what makes them really good.
Yeah, and I'm guessing you've done some research also about this Syracuse team. If you haven't done a ton, you can skip this. But how do you feel like that compares, that quarterback running back duo, to Syracuse duo of Garrett Schrader and LaQuint Allen?
So first of all, I love Garrett Schrader. Davo compared him to a lumberjack earlier this week. Said he's a lumberjack. He's kind of guy, and I got that Ryan Fitzpatrick look to him a little bit. That's kind of what I compare him to. And he just runs with abandon. I remember being on the field last year for part of it and watching him, and he's not going to slide. He's not going to take the easy way out. He's going to run over. He's going to try and run over you. He's 6'4", 225 or 6'5", 225. And then Allen's kind of that great changeup to him, and they're able to use them both because they're doing swaps and boots with him, and then they're running the read option over here, and that's what makes it so difficult to defend. I think Syracuse, they realize they don't have the biggest offensive line in the world, so they're doing a lot of pulling and a lot of misdirection, and is the ball going here? And then Schrader, as Dabo said yesterday, he's a lot better throwing the football than people give him credit for too. He likes to chunk it down the field. He had that one play against, I think, Purdue, where he's kind of in the backfield and he's kind of roaming around, and the defensive back takes his eyes off of the receiver because he thinks maybe here comes Schrader. Boom, long pass, and that's what he does really well, and it makes the defense play honest all the time.
Yeah, and with that running capability, I think that's something that Syracuse fans love from Schrader, but also they get a little worried every time he runs outside the pocket because they know how valuable he is to the Syracuse offense. Back to this Clemson team. Most Q's fans know about Klubnik. They know about Shipley because of everything that happened last year and because the star players that they are. Who were some other players that really could stand out in this game, you think?
There's a freshman wide receiver by the name of Tyler Brown who came out of a local high school here, Greenville High School. He has another former teammate that is committed to South Carolina. They were kind of the dynamic duo. Maceo Bennett is his name, but Tyler is the one guy that can take the top off the defense, and he has done it a few times. In fact, I saw something last week I'd never seen before. Tyler made a really, excuse me, nice diving catch over the middle, landed on his shoulder, got up, went to the injury tent, and Dabo Sweeney followed him into the injury tent. That's the first time I've ever seen Dabo follow a player into the tent. And Tyler comes right back out and he plays. And this is a kid that's really starting to come into his own now. He's got 4 games under his belt, and they are looking to him now more and more to be a playmaker. And we're kind of unsure about the status of Antonio Williams, who's Clemson's leading receiver. He plays in the slot. That's where Tyler Brown plays. Antonio kind of tweaked his ankle a couple of games ago. He missed a Florida State game. I think there's concern about him playing on the turf at Syracuse this week with that ankle, and they may hold him. So watch out for Tyler Brown. And then the other running back, Phil Maffa, is an absolute load, 230-pound beast. He does have sort of breakaway speed. He broke away against Florida State, but then he started running towards the sideline. And I joked that he needed oxygen about halfway through the run, but he's another one that he's a battering ram, and they use him down on the goal line, and he's another one that's kind of fun to watch.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. Last question for you. How long have you been covering Clemson?
So, well, that's a weird question for me because I covered my first Clemson game on September the 18th, 1986, Clemson and Georgia. I was still in college
Okay.
and covered that great Clemson Georgia game as a collegiate intern. But I've been full time with TigerNet's since 2008. My first game was Dabo's first game.
Okay. That's awesome. Yeah. So I wanted to ask about it might be kind of a tough question to answer because there's been a good amount of I would say historic matchups between Syracuse and Clemson. It always seems like it's
Sure.
close no matter how much
Yep.
better it seems like Clemson is than Syracuse. Syracuse always finds a way to bother the Tigers a little bit. Um, Would you consider this like a rivalry game or something that the players are a little more amped up for?
I do. It's funny. I asked all the players this week, do they like playing at Syracuse? And they to a man said yes, because the fans are right on top of you. It is a smaller venue than they're used to playing in, so you get the fans packed in there, and it's really loud. And then yeah, you watch the game last year. I saw more trash talk between those two teams than any other team Clemson plays. Syracuse gives it right back to Clemson. Clemson gives it right back to Syracuse. And for whatever reason, yeah, Syracuse 6 games decided, by 6 points or less or whatever. Dino Babers seemingly knows how to scheme up against Clemson, and it's fun. And these players kind of always know it's going to be a dogfight. It used to be that Boston College was that team that always kind of gave Clemson fits. But now it's Syracuse, and it's part of what makes it fun. And I think the Clemson players do consider it a rivalry.
Yeah, awesome. All right, that's all the questions I have. So
Perfect. I'm glad we can able to help here.
thank you. I really appreciate it.